Good morning everybody, happy Wednesday. I hope you've had a really good week so far. Let us all know how you're doing. So the last couple of weeks on Wednesdays we talked a little bit about gratitude a couple of weeks ago, and then last week we talked about rest and spending time with God. And this week I was thinking a lot about what Matt's been talking about over the last couple of days, thinking about identity, but for me I've been thinking a lot about comparison. And how we compare ourselves to other people quite a lot. The way that we see ourselves and the way that we compare ourselves to other people has a huge impact upon our well-being and upon our relationship with God. And I think, especially that the comparison has been really heightened in the last few weeks when we've been in lockdown and going through this really weird time where we haven't been able to see like our friends and our family in person. The only lens that we've really been able to see into other people's lives is through social media or perhaps a Zoom call. For a lot of us recently, there's been a real sense of comparing how well we're coping with lockdown, how well we're coping with what's going on at the moment. And it's so easy to scroll through Facebook or Instagram and see what everybody else is up to and start comparing our own experience with everybody else's and start comparing how we're coping with everybody else too. I know, especially for me personally, I really struggled, especially in the last couple of months of lockdown. And I would scroll through social media and see all these things people are up to, these new hobbies and skills that people had taken up, and people talking about how well they were coping. And I'd feel almost embarrassed by how much I was struggling, especially as I felt like I still had so much to be thankful for and knew that I was in a much better position than some people already were. And I almost felt like a failure just seeing all these things that made me decide that I wasn't coping as well as everybody else. And comparison isn't just restricted to the last couple of months, it's something that happens every single day, whether it's about the way that we look or the way that we lead or the way that we do things or how good we are at something. Even if it's subconsciously, every day we're going to encounter situations in which we might compare ourselves to somebody else in a negative way. Matt spoke yesterday about the importance of rooting our identities in who Jesus says we are. And it's so important, isn't it? And we read so often throughout the Bible about being children of God and being made in God's image and being his great masterpiece. And it's so important that we remember these things so that we can grow into the person that God has created us to be. Something that I'm having to learn still is that the person who God has made me to be is enough. And I'm having to unlearn this mindset of if I looked more like this, then perhaps I'd be better. Or if I could do this a bit better, perhaps I'd be more accepted. Or if I led like this person, perhaps I'd be a better leader. Or if I could do this thing like this person, perhaps I'd be more fun to hang out with. And all these lies that build up and just shroud the identity that God has given us. And that's something that's really hard to unlearn, but something that I know that I have to do. If God wanted us to be like these people that we so often find ourselves comparing ourselves to, then he would have made us that way. God has given us our own gifts and our own talents and our own personalities and our own uniqueness because he wants us to use that. He wants us to be the person that he has made us to be. And that's something that I really struggle with because comparison is something that's hard to unlearn. It's hard to learn that you are enough when you spent so long believing that you're not. So I started doing this thing a little while ago, which I think might be really helpful for you guys too. So your challenge for this week is to write a list. And this list is going to be called your I am list. And on this list, you're going to write things which you like about yourself, things which make you you, things that you're good at, your passions, your desires, things that make you the unique person that you are. And also I challenge you to look in the Bible, find verses that speak of who God says you are, find verses that speak of that truth over you, and add that to your list as well. I'll put a little list of different references in the comments below where you can find things like that. And this might feel really difficult at first. You might find you only have one or two things on your list, and you might find that you don't even believe those things really. And that's okay. I found it really difficult at first too. But over time, perhaps as you do this activity more and more, you might find you can add more things to your list and start believing them as well. Once you have your list, even if that is just one or two things at first, what you can do every morning is declare these things out loud to yourself as declarations about who you are, starting with I am for each one. Whether that's I am beautiful, I am bold, I am a child of God, I am made in God's image, I'm a good mum, I'm a good dad, I'm a good leader, I can play these instruments, I'm good at writing, I'm good at painting, I'm good at drawing. Whatever it is, whether it's a huge thing or a little thing, just these small declarations of truths about ourselves can make a huge difference to how we see ourselves and how we see the person that God has made us to be. I really encourage you to pray about this too, to ask God to show you the areas where you have your strengths, where you have your gifts. Ask God to speak to you about what He says about you, and just spend that time focusing on that. Spend that time focusing on what God is saying, rather than this voice that tells you to compare yourself to other people. And it's okay if you find this really hard. I know that I still do sometimes, but I also know that coming back to that place of declaring these truths over myself, no matter how difficult that is, no matter how silly I feel doing it, that it makes a difference, and it just reminds me even just a little bit of the truth of who God says I am. I read this quote somewhere that said, you wouldn't compare a beautiful sunset with a field of flowers. You might say that they're both beautiful, you might say that they're both God's creation, and they're both beautiful, they're both created by God, and they're both amazing, but they look completely different. And it's the same with us. We are all beautiful, we are all individual, we are all created by God, but that's going to look different for each and every one of us, and we each have our place in the plan that God has for our lives. So I'd really encourage you this week to write these I am lists and make these habits of declaring these things over yourself every morning. And do let us know how you get on with that. We'd love to hear how God is working in your life at the moment. I really hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!